Hold on, do not click away. I know your feed is probably flooded right now, but I promise you this is not just another piece of AI slop. What we got today is a deeply informative, educational, and honestly incredibly entertaining explainer about the absolute biggest twist in modern gaming history. We are talking about the newly announced game God of War Laufey and the massive lore revelations that have been hiding in plain sight this whole time. If you're ready to have your mind completely blown, hit that like button right now and let's get into it. So let's talk about Faye. For years, we've all kind of just operated under the assumption that Kratos' second wife was just a tragic backstory, right? You know, the quiet, loving, mortal mother who passed away and sent Kratos and Atreus on this epic bonding road trip just to scatter her ashes. But what if I told you that was entirely by design, that this loving mother was actually a lethal giant who went toe-to-toe with Thor, manipulated the entire events of Ragnarok from the shadows, and is currently fighting a literal multi-dimensional war in the afterlife? Yeah. The sources we're breaking down today completely rewrite everything we thought we knew about her.
Chapter 1. The Warrior Giant.
To really grasp where Faye is headed, we actually have to understand who she was. She wasn't just Faye. Her true identity is Laufey the Just, the grand architect of this entire journey. She actually concealed her true nature as a frost giant from her own family just to protect them. Tracing her history, her secret life is absolutely wild. Decades ago, she was the final guardian of her people in Midgard, actively rebelling against the tyranny of the Aesir gods. Years prior to even meeting Kratos, she was secretly collaborating with Tyr, the Norse god of war, to hide the Jotunheim Rum Tower, completely cutting off Odin's access to her homeland. But the real turning point? The event that literally cemented her legendary status. That happened just before the 2018 game even began. She fought Thor. And she didn't just fight him, she gave him the absolute fight of his life. And the sheer scale of the destruction from that fight is just wild. Deep in the Vanaheim crater, there's this massive bolt of frozen lightning just suspended in the sky. And thanks to lore drops uncovered by the community, we now know this wasn't caused by Kratos. No, this was a legendary, insanely violent stalemate between a drunk, bloodthirsty Thor and a rage-fueled Faye. I mean, their clash was so intense, the collision of their magic literally shattered the souls of the surrounding village and permanently altered the entire topography of the realm. Just let that sink in. She was actually able to stand against the absolute strongest Aesir god because of the weapon she carried. Sindri really hit the nail on the head when he said her weapon was infused with the echoing screams of 20 frost trolls. Now, before we dive into exactly how she got her hands on this masterpiece, I want to hear from you guys. Drop a comment below right now with your favorite Faye theory so far. Like, did she plan to die or was it some kind of tragic accident? Let me know.
Chapter 2. The Leviathan's Legacy.
Faye needed a weapon capable of literally swallowing the storm that Thor brought to her people. And that brings us to the forging of the Leviathan axe. Broke and Sindri were absolutely consumed by guilt over the giant genocide that Thor was committing using Mjolnir, a hammer that they created. So to make things right, they forged the Leviathan axe specifically for Laufey as a tool of righteous defense. And it's brilliant because it perfectly illustrates the philosophical difference between the two weapons. Think about it. Mjolnir represents pure chaos, destruction, and bloodlust. It's just a blunt instrument of terror. The Leviathan axe, though, that represents restraint, protection, and discipline. It is a cryokinetic masterpiece built specifically to be the counterbalance to Mjolnir's uncontrollable storm. So, here is the absolute kicker. Kratos inherits the Leviathan axe after Faye's death, but he doesn't inherit it as a tool for vengeance, like those old blades of chaos. No, in Kratos' hands, the axe becomes this profound symbol of cautious redemption. It becomes a symbol of fatherhood and of his fierce love for his son. Faye gave him a weapon of peace, and by doing that, she basically forged a completely new man out of the ghost of Sparta. But here's the thing, Faye's story doesn't end with her just passing down the axe. Her weapon survived her, and as we are literally just finding out, so did her soul. If you are hyped to finally see Faye's true power unleashed, take a second right now and share this explainer with your gaming squad. Trust me, they need to see what's coming.
Chapter 3. Surviving the Everywhen.
Because, yes, we are officially getting a new game, God of War Laufey. Death was supposed to be the end, but for Faye, who is played once again by the amazing Deborah Ann Wool, by the way, a whole new adventure is just kicking off. She awakens unexpectedly in this bizarre land right after her funeral pyre burns out. And this land, it's called the Everywhen. It's basically the transcendent afterlife of the gods. You know how Odin was always so obsessed with what happens to gods when they die? Well, the Everywhen is the answer. It's the birthplace and the endpoint of all ancient magic. But let me tell you, it is far from a peaceful resting place. It is basically a wild, multiversal melting pot. The Everyone is this crazy convergence point for multiple pantheons. In the recent reveals, we literally see Faye dragged into a prison camp and thrown right at the feet of Begetsi, the Mongolian god of war, who is then immediately interrupted by Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess of war. It's insane! Deities from all across human history are just vying for power in this singular, terrifying afterlife. And while she's navigating this chaotic nightmare, Faye stumbles across something absolutely terrifying. She finds a decaying corpse wearing a mask that looks almost identical to Odin's mask of creation. You know, the artifact that drove the entire plot of Ragnarok? When this thing crumbles in her hands, it hits her. If there is a second mask down here in the afterlife, the incredibly intricate plans she set up to protect Kratos and Atreus up in the living world are in serious jeopardy. So to protect her family, she has to fight. And man, the gameplay mechanics here, breathtaking. She fights as the golden hand of the Jotnar. Her entire combat style is built around this lethal agility. Basically, step 1, she strikes an enemy with her glowing golden hand. Step 2, the force is so insane that it physically detaches their soul from their body. And step 3, she manipulates and attacks that soul directly to pull off these absolutely devastating combos. It's like they took the fluid, fast-paced action of Kratos' old Greek saga and perfectly married it to the heavy, gritty realism of the Norse games. But now here is where my mind was completely blown. The temporal entanglement between these realms is fascinating. People have already synced up the trailer footage, and the exact moment Faye ignites an explosive to break out of her cage in the Everywhen, it seemingly lines up flawlessly with the opening of Ragnarok, the exact second where Kratos is briefly killed and his heart is restarted by Thor's hammer. Time clearly works differently down there, and it heavily implies that Faye's multiversal war is actively rippling out and impacting the world of the living. The climax, Architect of Fate. So what does this all mean? It means Faye is the absolute mastermind. She's not just a passive backstory. She isn't just Kratos' wife. Laufey the Just is the grand architect of the entire Norse saga. Every single yellow handprint Kratos followed, every protective ward she placed, and now, every god she strikes down in the Everyone is a highly calculated move on a cosmic chessboard. Her fight to protect her family didn't stop when her ashes were scattered at the highest peak in Jotunheim. Actually, scratch that, it just escalated. She is relentlessly battling her way through a multi-mythology war, facing down Egyptian and Mongolian war gods, just to guarantee that the beautiful, cautious future she envisioned for her boys actually survives. But this massive revelation really leaves us with one incredibly provocative question. How on earth do the Greek, Norse, Egyptian, and Mongolian pantheons actually connect within this singular universe? Well, click the explainer currently on your screen to dive deeper into the insane multiversal lore of this world. And make sure you hit subscribe right now so you never miss our next deep dive. Keep learning, keep playing, and I will see you in the next explainer.